everyone, welcome back to Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Today's video is the end of the year book tag. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books, and this, right at the corner of the frame, is Harry, my cat, who is really trying quite hard to stop me from making this video right now, so hopefully he's going to behave. I'm getting some very evil looks, so we'll definitely have to see how that one works out. Today I thought I would bring you the end of the year book tag, as we are now in November. The end of the year is rapidly approaching, and as you will have seen in my previous videos, I am hoping to get my giant TBR finally down below 200. At this current moment that I'm filming, I'm at 204 books, and I've started another 2 books already this month, so I'm really feeling very hopeful. The further I can get it below 200, the more books I can ask for Christmas without going back over 200, which is the aim. So the end of the year book tag is a tag originally created by Ariel Bissett. I believe this is a tag that people do at this time of year every year to sort of summarise what they're hoping to do in the last few months of the year. I have seen quite a few people doing this tag already, so possibly I'm a bit late, even though to me the end of the year doesn't really come on until November, December time. So there are only 6 questions on this tag, and I'm not going to be tagging anybody today, but if you do want to do this tag, I think it's a bit like the mid-year freakout tag, in that you just do it at the end of the year and you don't have to be tagged for it. So if you do want to do this tag, please consider yourself tagged. Thank you for sitting on the prompts, Harry. So the end of the year book tag has 6 prompts, and let's get straight into them. So the first one is, are there any books that you started this year that you still need to finish? Now, the very observant among you, or those who've been around for a little while, may know that there is one big book that I have started and I haven't finished it yet. And I've made a video about this, which I will put a little card for up here. I made a video about this being the most intimidating book on my bookshelf because of its size. And when I started it, I was actually very pleasantly surprised. But I started this back in June for Ancients-a-thon, and I haven't finished it. I haven't got very far at all. So it is Don Quixote by Cervantes, and it's actually a really, really good book so far. I've read, it's in Roman numerals, I am on chapter 20 in part 1. So I did read some of this in June. I read a little bit of it in August, I think. But a lot of months I've set myself pretty hefty reading goals, and this month is no different. So I'm struggling to think when I'm going to actually finish Don Quixote, but it would be really lovely to finish this by the end of the year. So perhaps if by mid-December I am down comfortably below 200, I will go back to Don Quixote and get it read. So you can see where I am with this first bookmark. The second bookmark is where the notes are. So I've got quite a long way to go. It's quite enjoyable. It's a lot funnier than I thought it was. And it's definitely a book that you can dip in and out of because it's quite episodic. So I am quite determined to read Don Quixote. I hope I will go back to it before the end of the year. So that's my answer to question number 1. Harry, don't you like Don Quixote? Question number 2 is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? Not really. So I don't think any of the books that I've selected for my November TBR I would consider particularly autumnal. I'm thinking there might be some autumnal stuff in Notebook by Tom Cox, because there tends to be nature writing and there can be things from all times of the year in his book. So there could be some autumn in here. There's no chapter that sounds like it's set in autumn, but there could be autumnal aspects to it. I'm hoping to read that in November. I'm also reading in November Murder on the Orient Express, which I always consider quite a wintry book. So maybe this will provide a bit of a transition into winter, because of course in Murder on the Orient Express the characters end up trapped on a train in a snowdrift, so wintry. And I'm reading that in November as well. So question number 3. Is there a new release you're still waiting for? No. As you'll know from watching my channel, I don't really I'm not really able to get any new releases at the moment because of the giant TBR. To be honest, I've not been too sad about that lately. There's nothing I'm really anticipating coming out. I think there was going to be a new Nikki French book this month, but I'll be able to catch up with that next year, so that's fine. I'm focused at the moment completely on my shelf, so not too worried about any new releases. Question 4 is, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? Now, I didn't want to be too boring and only pick things that were on my TBR for November, but I do want to mention a couple of things that were on that TBR, because otherwise, well, my TBR was already 13 books long, so let's not get too carried away. So I definitely want to read this year. It's Dear Reader by Kathy Rensenbrink. Absolutely can't wait to get stuck into this for Non-Fiction November. I'm so looking forward to reading this. I also would like to read, if I get time, probably in early December, Giant's Bread by Agatha Christie when she was writing as Mary Westmacott. This is the first of the Mary Westmacott books, and I would really like to read it by the end of the year. This one was on my November TBR as well, but I definitely want to get this read this year because I actually started it a few years ago. I was reading it on a plane, and I've got a fairly Spanish ticket in there, so I don't know what that was for. But yeah, because I started this a few years ago, I've been anticipating reading it for a while. It's The Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham, and I did put this onto my list firmly for the next couple of months because it came up in the BookTube spin. So I definitely want to read this by the end of December, preferably by the end of November. So that's The Day of the Triffids. To tell you a bit more about The Day of the Triffids, it is of course a classic apocalyptic fiction. I believe it's about like giant plants that take over, so I've always thought of it as a bit zombie-esque, but instead of zombies we've got plants. So this would be a very interesting read, and when I've talked about it on my channel I've had quite a lot of comments from people saying that I really should read it, so I'm looking forward to getting this done by the end of the year. Now, because I'm always a bit too ambitious, as well as those 3, I've got an author that I really want to read one more from this year, if possible, and that is Daphne du Maurier. This is where you come in, because I would love you to comment down below which of these 3 books you would like to see me read by the end of the year, because I read Rebecca earlier this year. So the options are Frenchman's Creek, option number 1. And Frenchman's Creek is, I believe, a little bit piratey. Lady's involved in a scandal and she retreats to a place called Navron, her husband's Cornish estate, and seeks peace and solitude away from London, but it's being used as the base for a French pirate, an outlaw being hunted all over Cornwall. So this one sounds really intriguing. If you would like me to read this one, please let me know in the comments down below. The second Daphne du Maurier option is Jamaica Inn. I don't really know a lot about this one either, but it says on the back, after the death of her mother, Mary Yellen crosses the windswept Cornish moors to Jamaica Inn, the home of her Aunt Patience. There she finds Patience a changed woman, downtrodden by her domineering, vicious husband, Joss Merlin. Mary discovers that the inn is a front for a lawless gang of criminals and is unwillingly dragged into their dangerous world of smuggling and murder. So, if you'd like me to read Jamaica Inn, please let me know in the comments. Option number 2 is Jamaica Inn. Option number 3 is My Cousin Rachel, and again, I don't really know what it's about, but it says on the back, orphaned at an early age, Philip Ashley is raised by his benevolent cousin Ambrose. Resolutely single, Ambrose is delighted to make Philip his heir, safe in the knowledge that he will treasure his beautiful Cornish estate. But Philip's world is shattered when Ambrose sets off on a trip to Florence. There he falls in love and marries, and then dies suddenly in suspicious circumstances. Before long, the new widow, Philip's cousin Rachel, arrives in England, and despite himself, Philip is drawn to the beautiful, mysterious woman. But could she be Ambrose's killer? So that sounds very intriguing as well. So we have all 3 of these Daphne du Mauriers. Option 1, option 2, and option 3. Please let me know in the comments down below which one would you like to see me read before the end of 2021. And the one with the highest votes I'm going to try and read probably in early December. Question number 5 is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favourite book of the year? I've read some really great books this year, a lot of books that weren't so great, but definitely a few that were great. If you've been following for a while, you'll know that midway through the year my favourite I had read was Great Expectations, and that would be a tough act to follow. But in the second half of the year I've already read 2 definite challenges in Bookworm and Rebecca, and I suppose any book could surprise me and still become my favourite book of the year, but I would be very, very surprised, to be honest. I was very pleasantly surprised last month by Lieutenant of Wildfell Hall. That's definitely right up there as a contender as well. I suppose if you pick me the right one out of the Daphne du Maurier books, that could have the potential to surprise me and become my favourite. I'm really interested to see what The Day of the Triffids is like, because that's the sort of book that I think could edge into my favourites, but I'm not really sure whether I will love the style of it. And of course Dear Reader, which is just so beautiful. I need to show it again. Of course Dear Reader is a book about books, which is the type of book I just absolutely love, so it wouldn't shock me if this became my favourite book of this year, but we'll have to see. It's got very stiff competition even in the books about books categories up against Bookworm, so we'll see. And finally, question number 6 is, have you already started making reading plans for next year? Yes, I have. So firstly of all, I'm very much hoping that we go into the new year with my giant TBR under 200. That is just the first step of reducing my giant TBR. I still need to be reading predominantly from my shelves. I'm hoping in the new year it will be below 200, and therefore I'll be able to start using the library again and borrowing books again. There are a couple of books my mum has lent me that I would like to read. There are a few recommendations that I've had in my time on BookTube. If I don't get them for Christmas, I would definitely like to investigate those books either from the library or on audiobook, or perhaps even buy them. I'm definitely still looking at being on a book ban for a while. Ideally I will get my giant TBR down to the 100 mark one day. I don't think it will be next year though, but maybe if I read completely from my shelves I would get down to 100. I don't know. So yeah, that would be a really cool goal, but it would definitely involve a very long book buying ban. One of the other thoughts I've had is possibly only buying a new book when I've got an old book to get rid of, so a one in, one out type of system. I've definitely already started making reading plans because I've already lined up a buddy read for March. So yeah, I'm planning things quite far in advance. If you would also like to buddy read something with me next year, please do let me know. I am open to suggestions, and I also do have my video featuring my entire TBR apart from the books I got for my birthday. Both of those are available on my channel. I will link up here the one with my giant TBR so you can see what there is that I would like to read. If you'd like to read one of those books off my shelf with me, please do let me know in the comments down below and we can arrange a buddy read for sometime next year. Yeah, so I've definitely got plans for 2022 and I am looking forward to the end of this year and getting under 200. If I say it enough times, I think it might happen. So fingers crossed for starting 2022 with less than 200 books on my giant bookshelf. And if you've enjoyed this video today, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do subscribe. Consider sticking around if you enjoy videos about books. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll all join me again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.